Welcome to Bedtime Stories Creepy, where dreams take a dark turn and nightmares come to life. Make sure to relax and enjoy the chilling tales that await you. Every video is a product of passion and meticulous effort. If you're enjoying the content, show some love by liking the video, subscribing to our channel, and hitting the bell icon to stay updated on our latest uploads. Caution: the following content contains unsettling themes and may not be suitable for all viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. The chilling true crime case of the Zombies of Rewanda. Zombies have been a staple of pop culture and cinema since the likes of White Zombie and Night of the Living Dead. Numerous interpretations and adaptations have been given life over the last few centuries, with the general premise staying the same. A reanimated undead corpse, now no longer under control by its original owner, typically flesh-eating and hungry for brains. A lot of people believe that's all zombies area. A fictional creature created by the film industry to make millions at the box office. But many would be shocked to learn of the true and terrifying incident that occurred involving said creatures. An incident that was covered up by a coalition of governing bodies in order not to panic the public at the time. The real-life incident involving the Rwandan zombies. Muto Sale was born on 28 October 1978 in Kigali, Rwanda. At the time, he was the youngest of 4 brothers, all of whom were significantly older than Mobutu. Mobutu grew up through the Rwandan Civil War, which raged violently from 1990 to 1994. During this time, his family, including his mother, father, and 3 older brothers, would move out of the dangerous capital city to a town called Cyangugu. Cyangugu was, at the time of the move in 1990, relatively safe from the conflict, and allowed Mobutu to experience a relatively normal childhood. It also made him extremely close with the youngest of his older brothers, Stephen Sale. Stephen Sale was 10 years older than Mobutu, placing him to be about 22 years old at the time of the incident. Stephen kept a watchful eye over his younger brother, keeping him safe while they went out and played in the streets. Stephen and Mobutu would often visit the local jungle together, spending hours exploring and playing games. Mobutu idolized Stephen, with the 12-year-old constantly at the heels of his older brother. On 26 November 1990 is when the beginning of the horrifying tale would seemingly begin to unravel. All information has been extracted from the diaries of Muto Sale, allowing us to understand the timeline of events that led up to the unfortunate ending. November 25th, 1990. Me and Stephen went exploring again today. The news on the radio is all about the war and fighting. I think Stephen can tell that I get scared when they read out the death count and describe what is happening in Kigali. When he sees I'm scared, he always suggests that we go and explore the jungle, which is what we did today. We saw the weirdest thing in the jungle today though. It was a small velvet monkey. We see these quite a lot, so that's not the weird thing. What was weird is he was completely still. We usually see them swinging through the trees. This one wasn't. He was stood on the floor and was go and collect some fruit. But when we came back an hour later, the monkey was gone. Weird. Completely still. His eyes were open, and he was stood on his hind legs, so definitely alive. Sort of swaying too. But he was just like a statue. Me and Stephen watched him for about 20 minutes, and then we got really creeped out. We left to go and collect some fruit. But when we came back an hour later, the monkey was gone. Weird. November 28th, 1990. Me and Stephen were in jungle again today, and he really scared me. We were playing hide and seek, and he was the one seeking. I hid in a great spot in the tree. I knew he'd never find me there. I waited for like an hour, and he still didn't come. I got really bored, so I came down because I thought I must have won by now. I couldn't find him anywhere, and I thought maybe he thought he was hiding, until I saw him in a clearing by some trees. He was just stood there really still like a statue, like that monkey the other day actually. I walked round to the front of him so I could see his face, and he was just staring straight ahead. His eyes were really glassy and bloodshot like he hadn't blinked in ages. I kept shouting at him, "Stephen, Stephen, hello, hello, answer me, this isn't funny." But he just kept still and didn't say anything. I thought this joke was really not funny, but even when I hit him he didn't move. I ran off to go and get another Sale brother. We came back about 30 minutes later and Stephen was gone. Iman thought we were joking and nearly went home, but I started crying, and he said he'd help me look for Stephen, because it would get dark soon. We spent an hour looking for Stephen and couldn't find him anywhere. I could see Iman getting worried too, but he kept saying, "I'm sure he's fine." It was getting dark when I heard Iman shout, "Stephen, what the fuck are you doing?" I ran over, and Iman was stood over Stephen. Stephen had buried himself in the undergrowth of some bushes and vines. He had covered himself in dirt and leaves, and only parts of his face and arms he hadn't covered well enough were visible. We knew he buried himself because we could see the mud under his fingernails from where he had dug it up. He still had that look on his face like he hadn't blinked still. Iman went down to grab Stephen's shoulder and pull him up, and Stephen snapped out of it and lunged at Iman. He punched him and growled. Then he calmed down again. Iman looked like his feelings were hurt, but he was fine. He asked Stephen why he did that, and Stephen just replied with, "I don't know." We all walked home in silence. I don't know what happened, but I hope Stephen is okay tomorrow. It should also be noted that Stephen Sale was described as being very mild-mannered until this point, having never been in a fight in his life, let alone striking his own brother. November 29th, 1990. I went into Stephen's room this morning to see if he felt better. He looked awful. He looked like a skeleton. I asked how he lost so much weight overnight, but he didn't answer. He just kept staring blankly at the wall. I guess he just wasn't feeling well and didn't want to talk, so I left him alone. I saw Quita this afternoon, a friend of Muto of the same age, and we went to the jungle to play. I was a little bit scared at first because of how Stephen was acting yesterday, but I forgot about it after a while. Quita told me that earlier that day he saw a monkey eating another monkey. I think he's lying though. Velvet monkeys, what he saw, are herbivores, and that means they do not eat meat. So how could it be eating another monkey? Stephen taught me that. I hope he's okay. November 30th, 1990. I went into Stephen's room this morning, and he wasn't there. I thought maybe he had felt better today, so decided to go outside. I wish he had told me so we could have gone to play together. This was the final diary entry of Muto Sale. On 1st December 1990, in their family home, the bodies of Muto Sale, Iman Sale, and their mother and father were found scattered throughout the house. The crime scene was vicious and was assumed an animal attack. All the bodies had had their internal organs savagely eaten. That same day, a further 12 bodies were found in the surrounding area, all murdered and gorged upon in a similar fashion. Local police quickly swarmed the area, looking for who or what could be responsible for the attacks. What they found shocked them. At 10:20 p.m., Stephen Sale was seen, leaving a local home. He walked slowly out of the house, with blood surrounding his mouth and over his hands and arms. Stephen Sale was barely recognizable, as he was said to be incredibly skinny, with open wounds all over his body. He was also naked. The police began to try and reason with Stephen from a distance, but he simply ignored them and kept walking. One officer opened fire on Stephen, shooting him twice with a pistol, to which Stephen astonishingly had no reaction. After a third shot was fired again, hitting Stephen in the chest, he allegedly turned and began walking towards the police. More police opened fire on Stephen, who continued to stagger towards them. Stephen managed to eventually get his hands on one of the police officers. attempting to then sink his teeth into the officer's torso. He was wrestled to the ground before he could achieve this, and finally stopped moving when a shot was fired to his head. The police and local town were extremely shaken by this, and immediately reported the strange activity to the Rwandan army. The army and local government, allegedly under advice from a scientist, bombed the area and surrounding jungle on the 2nd December 1990. This resulted in countless deaths, but was swept under the rug due to the ongoing civil war and far greater death toll emerging from Kigali every day. The few who were lucky enough to live and recount the tale of Stephen Sale were left baffled for years as to the nature of his crimes and the government's cruel response. In 2002, a local Rwandan scientist proposed the theory that Stephen Sale had been turned into a zombie. The emerald cockroach wasp is a parasitic wasp that has evolved into turning cockroaches into zombies. The wasp's initial sting is a paralyzing sting, putting the cockroach into a biochemically induced state of transient paralysis. This halts the cockroach's movement entirely, allowing the wasp to more accurately locate the victim's head ganglia for the second sting. The second sting releases venom that blocks receptors for the neurotransmitter octopamine. Essentially, this means the cockroach is under a state of mind control. The wasp then leads the cockroach to a burrow through chemical secretions that the cockroach follows instinctively now, so it can its larvae in the cockroach's brain in private. The wasp then leaves, its work done. The cockroach maintains in a trance-like state for a couple of days, while the larvae hatch inside its brain. When the larvae have hatched, they then begin to eat the internal organs of the cockroach. The cockroach, with its octopamine now blocked, is essentially dead anyway. It is now a vehicle for the wasp larvae to control. After the larvae have devoured the cockroach's internal organs, they burrow their way out as fully grown wasps. It's theorized this is what happened to Stephen Sale that day on the 25th November whilst he was seeking his brother. He was likely stung by an emerald cockroach wasp, or a wasp of similar nature. This explains his paralyzed state in Mobuto's diary entries, as well as his self-burrowing, so the wasp can lay its larvae in peace. It also explains his fast weight loss, as he was technically dead at that time with the wasp larvae devouring his internal organs. Finally, it's thought that when the wasp larvae have finished the internal organs of the host, if more nutrients is required, they will use the host's lifeless body to consume the internal organs of others. But how could a parasitic wasp go from preying on cockroaches to mammals? That's still unknown. One theory, a likely candidate, is to do with the chemicals that were being sprayed over the Cyangugu jungle in the late 1980s as a form of pesticide. These chemicals were since banned in 1992. It is theorized the chemical sprays contained a property that mutated the emerald cockroach wasp into having venom potent enough to hunt for humans and other primates as their host bodies. This is likely why the government and army acted fast, burning the whole area to rid any chance of this mutated wasp, continuing this devastating process. Naturally, no bodies of any of the Sale family or any other of Stephen's victims could be identified after the fires. The gruesome event was swept under the rug, never making it to mainstream media due to the ongoing civil war in Rwanda overshadowing the horrors and normalizing the vast amount of deaths that occurred. It is unsure if Stephen Sale was the only human victim of the wasp, or if more zombies had been created and not documented. The only evidence left of the story of the Rwandan zombies are the charred remains of the diary of Muto Sale and the original police report filings. Many hope this is the first and only reporting of a real-life zombie. However, I suppose we won't know not unless some of the mutated parasitic wasp managed to survive, perhaps lying dormant until years later. Thank you for joining us on this journey through creepy stories. Each story is crafted with care and dedication, ensuring that every spine-chilling moment is captured just for you. If you enjoyed these tales and appreciate the effort that goes into producing them, Don't forget to subscribe to Bedtime Stories Creepy for more nightmares that will keep you up at night.